Hey, this is Digital Byte Computing. We're going to go through the steps on how to download the VNX Simulator onto your computer, and then you're going to import that into something like VMware, into your VMware environment so that you can actually use it and simulate a full VNX environment. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go into the EMC website, just emc.com, and you want to sign up for an account. Signing up for an account is free, and we'll let you go and download that simulator. All right, so you're essentially going to simulate the full functionality of a VNX file level system. All right, so once you've signed in, you're going to be presented with the main website page here for the main EMC page, and you want to click on support up the top. When you're in the support area, you want to select downloads, and then in here, you want to look for VNX. Okay, now we're specifically going to be looking for VNX, where are we? VNX 2 series. Okay, so there are various models of the VNX 1 and the VNX 2. VNX 2 will cover a whole range, and it'll include also the latest simulator as well. So VNX 2 series, and then we click on that double arrow. You'll be presented with a whole list of things to download. So this is simulators, but it's also a lot of tech manuals, firmware updates, all those sort of things. Now in here, click down on title to sort it by title. Now we want to scroll down to close to the very bottom to VNX. All right. And we're looking for VNX file simulator. All right. So you'll see here that the model number, we're going to get the one with the latest model number, which at this stage is 8.1.8. Now you see it says single dual data mover OVA package. So you can get a single or dual data mover. Okay, we're going to be using the dual, well, this particular one here, single dual data mover down the bottom, 8.1.8 OVA package. So this is actually a full VM image that we can then import into a tool like VMware. You can also import it into other tools like Hyper-V and Citrix as well. All right, so go ahead and download the 8.1.8 simulator. You'll see that it's 3.2 gig big, and that is now going to start to download it. All right, so that is the basic steps on how to download it. And we'll cross back once we're ready to import it into our VMware environment. So the install should now be complete, and you'll see that I'm within my lab environment for VMware, and this is where I'm going to import my VNX simulator. All right, so I'm connected directly into a ESXi host. If you're running something like vCenter and managing multiple hosts, the process is exactly the same. So I'm just selecting my host up the top here. Doesn't matter where I select, anywhere is okay. And we go into File, and we want to deploy an OVF template. So you select that, and now we're going to navigate to where I know I've got my simulator, which is EMC VNX, and that is the simulator there. I'm just going to go and open it, and next. Now it's saying that the download size is 2.9. It's going to use 7.8 thin provisioned or 180 gig thick provision. So it's actually going to use 180 by default, but it's extendable up to 7.8, which is what the thin is going to be set as by default. All right, but you're only going to be using 180 gig as it extends. So as you're adding more storage, it'll go up to 7.8, which is what thin is here. All right, so VNX file simulator version 8, etc. All right, we're just leaving this. Let's just call it VNX Simulator. Next, where do we want to save it? So I'm going to put it onto my NAS. Okay, leaving it as thin. And finish. So that is now going to import the actual OVA file, into your VMware environment. Shouldn't take too long. Once it's up, you should be able to power it on and go from there. So that download will now be complete. Just click on close and you'll see your simulator on here. We're going to open up the console so you can actually see what's going on, and we're going to power it on. So we'll start the simulator. You'll see that it's booting. So it's running essentially a Linux version, and it's simulating a couple of data movers for your file level, your file level licensing for this VNX simulator. If you do want to use block level, then this won't be able to do block level. So what I mean by block is if you want to create your LUNs and present them as raw storage to a VMware environment, that sort of thing, you won't be able to do this with this particular VNX simulator. I haven't found a block level simulator. If you have found one, feel free to comment in the video, because I'd love to know where it is. But otherwise, this is just a file level, so you'll be able to create your CIFS shares and then present them into your Windows or even VMware as a NAS solution. Okay, so let's just wait till this finishes and we'll go from here. All right, so now we're presented with the logon screen. The username will be root, and the password is nasadmin, so NASADMIN, and enter. And now you're presented with your main logon screen. So this is actually a full Linux environment. So this would be similar if you had a real VNX environment and you use something like PuTTY to SSH directly into the VNX. You can actually control it this way as well. All right, so something you may want to keep in mind when you're configuring your VMware environment is the size that may be required for your data movers. So as we looked before, this is a install for 2 data movers if you want that. So by default, if you want 1 data mover, you're looking at 4 gig of RAM, or 6 gig of RAM if you're using a 2 data mover. So it'd be a matter of shutting down the VM and actually just going into the actual settings of the VM and adjusting your RAM accordingly. So I've just left it at 4. We're going to run this test with the 1 data mover. Now the other thing is there are 3 NICs, okay, on this VM. All right, they're all using at the moment, because this is a lab environment, it's only using 2 NICs, physical NICs, so for redundancy, that sort of thing. But for the simulator to work, and if you want to be able to access individual data movers and that sort of thing, you can have more than 1 physical NIC, and we'll go ahead and configure those as well. All right, so firstly, we need to do is we need to configure the virtual network interfaces. So what we're going to type in is we're going to type in netconfig -d and then Ethernet 0. All right, so this is the very first Ethernet. All right, so remember we had 3, so it's going to be 0, 1, and 2. All right, now you can choose to use dynamic IP if it's going to have DHCP. So I do have a DHCP running, so I can just tick this and I don't have to configure my IP credentials. But generally in a environment, I would recommend putting a static IP. It makes more sense so you know exactly what you're connecting to. So we're going to put in just a dummy IP address. So I'm running in the 172.16.1 subnet range, and we're going to go 200. My subnet mask, we'll leave it as 255.255.255.0. My gateway and my name server, that looks pretty good to me. So we're going to say OK to that. Okay, then you can do the same thing for your second one. So we're going to 201. And then leave the gateway and the name server as is. If your gateway is different, obviously adjust that accordingly. Okay, and we're going to say OK. Okay, so your 3 Ethernets should now be configured. And what I'm just going to do now is I'm just going to reboot the actual simulator itself. So once it's booted back up, we'll log back in. And we'll just confirm that the IP addresses are correct. So you want to do an ifconfig followed by the Ethernet. And you'll see that it's got the IP address of 172.16.1.200. One has got 201 and Ethernet 2 will have 202. Okay, so now we should be ready to go. So the Ethernets are configured. So you should be able to open up your web browser now. So we're going to use Firefox as our browser. And we're going to connect to 201. What you may find sometimes is depending on the data mover or the management network, some may or may not work. It could be buggy to do with Java. You'll soon find that Java can be very problematic when it comes to connecting to, say, the EMC VNX units. So play around with different versions of Java, install the latest one and see how you go. The other thing that may be helpful is if when you're in control panel, this is on the computer that has the that you're going to be connecting to the VNX simulator on, go into your Java settings, and in security, just add some exceptions. All right, so add the IPs in port 80, HTTP and HTTPS for your VNX in there as well. That often does fix some of the issues. Try to lowering the security level as well, and then try again. All right, so give that a shot. Now you may be presented with some security risk information. Say you want to accept it and run. And if all things have worked, once you've accepted a few of these, you should be presented with a logon screen to your VNX. Okay, so you just got a brief intro here, accept, and there you go. So we're ready to log into the VNX. Now you may also be presented with some Java pop-ups allowing you to, you have to accept to allow the pop-ups, allow the Java security, those sort of things. So it can be a little bit fiddly, but once you get there, you should be able to log in. Now we're going to log in with those same credentials as before, root, and then NAS admin. And the scope, we'll leave it as global. You can log in as local, but global for this exercise. I do have some other videos about the differences and how to create usernames and groups and that sort of thing. And we log in. So once that logs in, it's going to start the services, and you should be presented with your main logon screen to your VNX simulator. And there you are. We are good to go. So you'll see that there's a few errors here, critical errors. So you can go through and actually fix those if you want to. You can drop down here and actually select your VNX, or just click on here. And now we're in. So it's actually called localhost.localdomain. That's the name of this VNX itself. From here, you can actually change the host name as well. So you can give it a more meaningful name as well. So you can see at the moment it's called localhost, root at localhost, which is what this is called. So you can go in and actually change that. And that's it. So you should now be able to have access to here. You can go in, you can create, your RAID groups, your storage pools, etc., etc. So that is the steps. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, Digital Byte Computing, for a whole bunch of more videos. Thanks for watching.